From new restaurants and breweries to tech centers, the downtown area has seen tons of change and opportunity. So we wanted to give everyone an update on what exactly is going on down here. I'm joined by Ryan Smith, Business Development Manager here at the city with EUD. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So there's a lot that has happened over the last year when everything was kind of shut down. I don't think a lot of people realize what's happening. I drive through downtown, whether it be for work or personal life, and I've noticed so many new things that businesses that were not there before or maybe kind of just sneaked in. So let's start from the beginning. What has it been like for the last year for EUD and bringing businesses in?
Yeah, so everybody always asks me whenever I have any conversation is like, what's happening in Vegas? You know, obviously the pandemic has affected the city in a lot of different ways, but what I tell everybody is from a project and construction standpoint, almost nothing has stopped for the city of Las Vegas. So we have a lot of new projects that are going, some that you've witnessed from just driving around the city. But we've also been creative about attracting new talent, new workforce, new housing products to the city. And yeah, I think there's a lot of good and positive that has happened over the past year aside from the pandemic, and a lot to look forward to.
I think that that's not something most people would expect you to say. I think they would think during a pandemic we saw everything boarded up down there.
Yeah.
But there was really behind the scenes work going on, and now we're starting to see the fruits of everyone's labor.
Right.
So let's talk about, I guess everyone wants to get back out there. Capacity limits have increased. So let's start with the new breweries, that kind of area in the Arts District. What is going on down there? It just seems like there's tons of places to check out now.
So my favorite area.
Yeah, right? I think it's going to be my new favorite area.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, so anyway, there's the city is launching an initiative to create an area called Brewery Row. We've seen a huge uptick in the amount of new launches over the past year. We have places like Able Baker, Nevada Brew Works. I was at Cerveza last Thursday, which was an amazing location, as well as restaurants. We've had Good Pie, Main Street Provisions. So there's this kind of really cool continuity on Main Street in the Arts District where you can kind of bounce around to breweries, have some local food, check out the retail locations. Like you mentioned, the capacities are increasing, so the bars are going to be opening back up. So it's a really cool vibe that's happening in the Arts District right now, for sure.
Why do you think it's breweries? Do you think that's just the thing that Gen Z's into, or what's going on with that?
Craft beer is trendy, I think, that number one. And then, number two, I think they tend to cluster. Like in major cities around the country, there's a lot of areas where there's just kind of the craft mentality, and that includes breweries. We have a distillery that's going into the Arts District that should be completed within the next year. So I think there's a real value proposition in being close to each other, and really parlaying off of that art, craft, culture, food experience that people look for.
Absolutely. So you talk to a lot of these business owners on a regular basis. What are they telling you about getting customers back in the door? Are people excited? Are they seeing business pick up?
Yeah, they're starting to see business. I mean, Able Baker will tell you, and even Cerveza or the breweries will say, we have to turn people away at times. They're trying to be as creative as possible to be able to serve their customers. Esther's Kitchen has a really cool concept in the back of their restaurant where they had like little house hut type places to have people in. The city's been creative in allowing businesses to encroach onto the sidewalk to have outdoor seating, and all that's been gobbled up. So the demand is definitely there, and they can't wait to be able to open their doors further to allow customers to come in.
All right, great news. Okay, let's move on to the Symphony Park area. I think a lot of people, you probably drive by this on I-15, so you know all of that construction that you're seeing. What is going on with Symphony Park? An update on the construction and when there's going to be living as well as retail there, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of like an all-encompassing, self-contained community. So obviously it's anchored by the Smith Center, which is an amazing performing arts center in the heart of really Symphony Park. Blackstone, which owns the World Market Center, has just completed a 300,000 square foot convention center space, which is really the first large-scale convention center space aside from the World Market Center in downtown, which is starting to program in the second quarter of this year. The two apartment complexes that are going up. One's called Oric, the other is called Park Haven. Both of them plan to house residents by July of this year. There will be over 650 units combined in both complexes.
So they've stayed on track.
Oh yeah, they haven't slowed down.
Wow.
Yeah, so again, I mentioned from a construction standpoint, if financing was in place before the pandemic, no construction projects have really stopped. Some may have slowed a little bit closer to the Strip, just with uncertainty in really the gaming hospitality sector. But the multifamily housing and residential housing sectors in Las Vegas are as strong as they've ever been.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so it's kind of going back to the pandemic and the uncertainty. A lot of people have had to shift what they're doing in terms of employment. There's a lot more work from home. But I've heard a lot of leaders say, listen, work from home is going to be the new norm for our corporation, or it's going to be the new norm for our business. And so what kind of opportunity does that provide the city of Las Vegas? That seems like a trend that's not going to go away anytime soon that we kind of need to get ahead of.
Yeah. So the city launched a big initiative in our department to attract new talent to Las Vegas. This work actually started before the pandemic actually happened. We were seeing that a lot of freelance technology workers had the ability to work anywhere. You could start to feel in corporate culture that there was more of a flexible work environment happening. It was no longer like punch in at 9, punch out at 5. People just wanted more flexibility, and leaders in technology started doing that before the pandemic. And then the pandemic hit, and it was everybody's now at home. Major companies, specifically in technology, were making announcements like Microsoft, Spotify, Coinbase, for permanent full-time remote work. Other companies announced partial remote work. And so we said, hey, these people can now work from anywhere, and Las Vegas brings such a huge value proposition. If you're living in San Francisco working for Google, and you make $250,000 a year, you can barely afford a 1-bedroom apartment. The average median home price in the San Francisco Bay Area is over $1.5 million. So if you take that salary and move it to Las Vegas, you can still continue to work for your company, your dream company, but you can have a quality of life that you can have in Las Vegas at the same pay range. Why would you not move here?
Right.
So we started actually reaching out to very specific people at very specific companies, inviting them to have a conversation with us about what it's like to live in Vegas, what things are like outside of the Strip, what the community is like. And people really took on to that. We had over 250 conversations. We reached out to over 1,000 people. This will all culminate into a day in May where we actually invite some of these people to come check out Vegas. We have a lot of sponsors that are helping. But yeah, we'll actually get them to experience Las Vegas. And we've actually taken that model and used that to attract the CEOs of some of the tech companies as well to get them interested in Las Vegas.
Wow, okay. So would you all provide these work remote centers? Or how would that work?
Yeah, so at the International Innovation Center, we have hot desk space is what it's called, essentially co-working space that we can help house, some of these individuals. The other aspect of this, what we'll eventually go to is say, go back to a Google, a Twitter, a Facebook, and say, hey, your employees do want to live in Las Vegas. You should probably consider opening up a regional location in the city so that they can come and you can still have those touch points of collaboration within your company. So that's kind of phase 2. Phase 1 is get them here.
Yeah.
Phase 2 is, prove that Vegas is a really great market for this. And that kind of goes back to some of the due diligence that technology companies or any company does when they're entering a new market is they look at the labor force, they look at the cost of doing business, they look at government policy and regulations. And so there's this big decision matrix, but the employee is really a very important part of that. So this is kind of solving that from the perspective of labor. The labor force is in very high demand, and the technology companies need to compete for it. They have to be in the places where those people want to be.
So what makes Las Vegas stand out compared to other cities that might be trying to pursue the same business, so to speak?
So there's one great example, and I use this in almost every conversation I have, is Tulsa, Oklahoma is offering $10,000 to somebody that will move there. And I've had a lot of conversations, like I mentioned before. And 10 grand to somebody that's making a few $100,000 a year isn't a huge number, but the reality is the city's not connected. Vegas is so connected, not only domestically, but globally. We have over 500 domestic flights out of the airport, the international airport. We have flights to Europe, to Asia, to South America, to Canada. I think being so connected where they can pick up and maybe they'll have a meeting, maybe they'll have to go back to San Francisco, the Bay Area, maybe they'll have to go to LA, Austin, a place like that. Vegas is just so connected. And then just from a pure cost perspective, we have no personal state income tax, which in California, most of these people are at the 13% state income tax level. So literally just the bottom line of their paycheck is affected greatly, more than any other state. We also have very low property taxes as well. And then again, we have beautiful, beautiful amenities. We have Red Rock Canyon, we have Mount Charleston. We're still close to the beach in LA. We're still close to Park City. Like, we have almost everything here. And then add on top of that, world-class dining and entertainment.
Right.
I mean, no other city can compete on that level with Vegas.
Wow. So good luck to you. I mean, you guys have a lot of work ahead of you, but I mean, there's some great selling points and some great opportunity for major, major growth here in the city.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you for all your work. Thanks for the update.
Thanks for having me.
All right, well, that's going to do it. Remember, you can get in on the conversation. All you have to do is follow us at City of Las Vegas, and you can always watch us online at kclv.tv or download our Go Vegas app to watch on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you next time.